Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison, and this is episode 3 of Petty Please on the Misty Morrison Podcast. Let's get into our stories of pettiness for today. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Trip my girlfriend at the movie theater? Okay, enjoy the twist ending I'm about to spoil for you. Years ago, my girlfriend, now wife, and I went to see Mickey Blue Eyes in the theater. We were standing in line, patiently awaiting our turn to buy tickets, when a guy pushed his way through, actually shoving people to get to the counter. Everyone started complaining, but instead of apologizing, he said, 6 cents starts in 5 minutes. If you're seeing something else, you have time. As though that excused being physical or jumping the line. My girlfriend ended up falling to the ground and hit her head against a chair. She got up with a cut on her chin, but otherwise she was okay. A lot of people stepped forward to check on her, but not the asshole who pushed her. He got to the front, ordered his tickets for 6 cents, and walked toward the usher. I made sure my girlfriend was okay, sitting in a chair, and then I made a beeline for the guy. My girlfriend thought I was going to start a fight, which is weird since she knows I've never hit anyone in my adult life. But I had a better plan in mind. She and I had seen 6 Cents the weekend prior, and it had one of the best twist endings in movie history. Don't read any further if you haven't seen the movie but plan to. So I walked toward the guy and said, "Hey, you," in an angry voice. He stopped short and turned to face me, taken aback. "What?" he asked. So I clenched my fist, looked him in the eyes, and then relaxed and smiled. I said in a soft voice so no one else would hear me, "Malcolm is dead the whole time." No one sees or hears him but the kid. But Malcolm doesn't realize it until the final scene. Enjoy the film. Then I smiled again and walked away, and I heard him say behind me, "Dude, what the F, man?" Thankfully, my girlfriend wasn't hurt. The cut wasn't even bleeding when I returned to her a minute later, and we enjoyed Mickey Blue Eyes. Not a great movie, no, but funny. The cast alone made the film worth watching, but we had a great time, even with the script problems, because my girlfriend kept looking at me while we were watching the film and saying, "Malcolm is dead the whole time." Then we would giggle silently. Good times. Good times. Responding to some recurring comments. 1, the story is true. My wife and I chuckled about it from time to time, and we certainly were last night after I showed her my post. There are a few illiterate, impotent trolls on Reddit who are calling it rage bait and obviously fake, and one troll inexplicably claimed AI wrote it. I hate AI and would never use it to write something. Those with writing skills, and I am one such person, do not need to cheat by having AI write their posts. 2, some people are saying I should have punched him. As my story noted, I've never hit anyone in my adult life. Violence is the refuge of those unable to use their brain, and I am not like the pretend alpha males here who idolize the chinless Andrew Tate. Also, had I hit him, then I would have gotten kicked out of the theater instead of watching Mickey Blue Eyes while giggling with my girlfriend at the thought of the guy sulking 3 theaters over because he knew Malcolm is dead from the first scene. And I very likely would have been arrested for assault. So it would have been a really stupid move on my part. I think my solution was a lot better than violence. Plus, if I were in jail, any sex I might have had would have been far less preferable to sex my girlfriend and I enjoyed that night. 3, normally, I'd never spoil movies for anyone, hence the spoiler space in my post. But if you knock the woman I love to the floor and don't even ask if she's alright, I'm willing to spoil the endings to 7, Planet of the Apes, The Usual Suspects, Psycho, Citizen Kane, The Crying Game, Fight Club, Memento, The Others, Inception, Looper, The Prestige, Soylent Green, American Psycho, Saw, Scream, Night of the Living Dead, Primal Fear, Unbreakable, Donnie Darko, From Dusk Till Dawn, and even The Empire Strikes Back before I'm done. I'll leave no twist ending untwisted. 4, I think a lot of people are focused a bit too much on the idea that he attacked her. That's not what happened, and it's not what my post above describes. He didn't punch her or physically attack her. What happened was that he shoved his way through the line like a guy who didn't care that there were people in front of him. She fell due to the people being dislodged, not due to his having targeted her specifically, and she hit a chair that was thankfully cushioned. But she was fine, other than a tiny cut, and she didn't want me to do anything. It was her choice, not mine, to press charges. She wanted to go in and see the movie, not make a scene. So I decided to ruin his evening before she and I enjoyed ours. And from the look on his face, I know I succeeded, whereas I definitely enjoyed mine. More importantly, she was happy with my solution, and that's all that matters in the end, because she is all that matters in the end. Bravo, my friend. Very nicely done. I agree in that situation because he wasn't like specifically attacking her. He was just being an ass. I agree violence was definitely not the right answer. You would have been the one to go to jail. And I love what you did. Like, it was so simple. And you made everything that he went through, like being cruel to other people, jumping the line, worthless, pointless, because he had to go sit through that movie that he paid to watch. And he already knew how it ended. I like it. It's petty, it's simple, and truly it harms no one. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/pro revenge. My ex-mother-in-law sent her church friends to harass my daughters and I. I have now exposed her family to her church community, and she's getting shamed and shunned at church. My 46 female daughters, 17 and 15, have a strained relationship with my ex-husband's parents, 78 male and 80 female. My ex passed away in an accident last year, and we've had some major family drama since, due to his cheating and him leaving 2 boys born with his affair partner orphaned. She also died. Part of the drama has been my ex-in-laws trying to get custody of my daughters, and them also trying to live with us. First one, we're going to court over. Second one will never happen. Where we live, there's a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products straight from farmers. This week was extra special since it was my youngest birthday. Since her party is later in the month, I decided to give her a budget and set her loose on the market to get whatever she wanted. Mostly chocolate and sweets. After an hour, I did start getting worried, and just before I called her, she called me. She was crying, saying some weird people have cornered her. I ran to her with my oldest daughter to find 6 older women berating my daughter for being unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents, or for wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphan baby brothers. My daughters are the ones that found out about my ex cheating and the babies, so they aren't fond of the kids. It's trauma, and they are working with a therapist. I got between the group and my daughter, telling my eldest to go pay for the stuff her sister had and to go the car. Then I turned to the women, some who I knew from when we went to my ex-in-law's church, and ripped them a new one. They told me I was worst for refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. Barf. Eventually, the screaming turned too loud and we were all asked to leave the market. I met with my girls in the car, the women following me like a group of vultures. I managed to get in the car and drove away. After my girls went to bed, I got online to talk to another member of that church that I'm on good terms with. I told him about what happened, and after he apologized, he told me what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law posted this massive story in the church's Facebook group about how horrible my daughters and I are, how we are leaving them homeless and penniless. They inherited my ex's personal bank account and his life insurance, and how my daughters don't even talk to them. She also accused us of being the reasons she lost her grandsons. The boys are now living with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a sob story worthy of a Hallmark movie. And of course, they were getting all the love and support from the more extremist members of their church. This church and its members are a bit annoying, especially with the LGBTQ plus topics. But they have a small saving grace. They are incredibly strict about cheating. It's a big no-no, be it from a husband or a wife equally. Now, how did she get around blaming me about affair children without exposing the cheating? She claimed the other woman was our surrogate since I was unable to have more children, then said I didn't want the babies because they were boys, which is absolutely disgusting to be accused of. Well, I decided it was time to clean up this mess, and since I was mid-divorce when my ex died, I had all the evidence needed. And since the divorce wasn't completed, I don't have any legal ramification for releasing all the evidence. I was off the next day and went to a print shop to get copies of all the delightful pictures of my ex cheating, his text conversations with his affair partner, the ones with his parents confessing to his cheating and getting support from them, my ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my coup de grace, all the emails and text messages of them bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, they call my daughters bastards and tell them it was their fault their father died since they told me about the affair and I began the divorce. This one was literally 2 days after my ex died. I paid extra for all of this to be printed in beautiful, high-quality paper. Then, when I got home, I sat down for hours to make delightfully personalized binders. They look like little prayer song packets the church give for everyone to take to sing hymns. The first picture when opening the binders is my ex and his side woman making out in our living room. Their faces are easy to discern, and the girl looks nothing like me. Different skin tones and hair color. Underneath, I wrote ex-husband's name and affair girl's name, love story. I took them to the church before service. There's a desk in the back with the songbooks for people that need/forget their own, and they never check them. The gossip mill was quick and harsh. The names my ex and his affair partner got called in the Facebook were so bad the pastor himself had to get involved, just to keep things relatively PG-13. People were angry at my ex-in-laws for their abuse to my daughters. But what made me laugh was that I was still in the wrong for the divorce. But it is understandable that I failed on my duties after the shock, and I possibly will one day return to the light, unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They used another word I can't use here, I imagine. I got 2 apology letters in the mail for my girl and an invitation to join the church for support. As for my ex-in-laws, they got shamed into leaving the church. My ex-mother-in-law made a post on her wall about how alienated she feels and how no one cares for the elderly anymore. How she wished her great son was still alive since he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money, I don't know, since I was the breadwinner. Explanation on the will. My ex-husband had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries. As far as I was aware, he had told me he had named our daughters, not them. I never pushed for me to be the beneficiary, as my own will has my daughters as the beneficiaries, not him. Wow. Wow. I mean, yes, I feel like to spill all the tea was petty, but truly it was your tea to spill. And especially when what had already been shared on Facebook was lies or twists of the truth. I mean, I feel like you had every right to share your side of the story, especially since you came with receipts. I love that. Um, I I love it. Like, you moved in the shadows, you got everything printed, you took it to church, like you didn't force anything on anybody. I hate that your daughter had to have that experience of getting cornered in the market by these mean old biddies. I'm glad she had the thought to call you. I'm glad you took care of it so well and so quickly. Um, yeah, it was petty, but I think this was very well deserved. Good job, OP. Okay, story number 3 is coming to us from r/pro revenge. If you're going to steal the catalytics off my truck, you should have checked if they were actually functional first. Wasn't so funny when it was turn. Was a fun morning at the beginning of last week, starting up my truck and waking everyone up at 2:45 a.m. to learn someone swiped the hollowed out cats. The idiots missed the neighbors' cameras that basically gave away who they were. It's 2 kids from the area who drive around in a pretty busted up police Crown Vic. I chose not to call the cops. Instead, I called one of my friends, who's code enforcement, and let him know what my plan was, and he relayed the info to the police that I was finally going to do a nuisance tow on that same Crown Victoria. The car they drive isn't street legal as it has no license plates or insurance or working taillights and rattles like shit due to the trash sound system. They also spend their whole day at a chicken shack smoking. Not sure who they're getting money from, but I'm guessing stealing catalytics was part of the equation. When I spotted the car sitting on a quiet street, I called it in and got the go-ahead to tow. I took it straight to the police station and they tried to run an owner check with the VIN number, only to find out it hadn't been registered since 2011. And the owner was someone other than the kids who sold them the car with no title because of all the back registration owed. The cops said we can go ahead and take it to the junkyard till they can get a black title, aka certificate of destruction. By then, the two idiots were running around all over town looking for their car, thinking it got stolen by one of their friends as a prank. The key lock was so worn out you could start it with any car key. They found it at the junkyard and tried to steal it by one of them distracting the owner and the other stealing their car, but the junkyard was aware of who they were, so they cut the drive shaft off beforehand. I missed out on this part, but they got arrested for trying to steal their car back, and they watched as the junkyard used a crane to rip the car to shreds. When I saw it, the remains looked like a toddler just ripped it to the bare frame out of curiosity. They've been out of jail since, but haven't left their trailer. I did a drive-by earlier and noticed a beater Jeep Liberty in their driveway, also with no plates and already working with the cops on taking that too if I see it out in public, except I won't miss the show next time. I mean, that one was all on the up and up. I mean, you didn't even press charges for them stealing off of you. I would have. Like with the security footage to prove who it was, I would have towed theirs, had it destroyed, and also got them in trouble with the law for stealing. Because why not? Why not? But I like it. I think that was the bare minimum of what they deserved. Story number 3? 1, 2, 3, 4. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/pro revenge. Neighbor was stealing water from my supply, so I ruined him. Whoa, story number 4 is long. I live in Asia and just purchased a new house. Now, the previous owners were family friends who needed cash urgently and haven't been living in my country for nearly 3 years. So I got it for a great price in the middle of the capital city. The sale was finalized at the start of this month and I moved in right after. The house was definitely a fixer-upper, as the previous owners had left mid-renovation, and the main door was locked with just a padlock, not even a door lock. The house had no gate, meaning anyone could just walk right on in. The first day I moved in, someone's bike was parked in the garage. I just parked on the road on the same day. I had a gate installed. An angry man was knocking on my gate later, and I didn't bother answering, but through my window I could see him giving up and taking the bike after 15 minutes. So already, I wasn't digging the neighborhood. But I didn't have any incidents after that, aside from people not knowing that this was no longer an abandoned house. So my gate was blocked more often than never. But a no parking sign on my gate fixed that issue. Last week, I was having a shower in my bathroom, and I noticed my water pressure was lower than usual. I also heard my next door neighbor's water pump going. Now, this neighbor, an old guy, lived in a 3-storied house, the first being the lowest, and the one he lived in. The other 2 floors were rented out to tenants. This guy wasn't happy about the house being sold, and voiced many concerns to my friends, the previous owners. He was super angry about it, and my friends did warn me. But I'm a 6-foot guy with 3 dogs. No way he was doing anything. And yep, he didn't. So, with this living situation, a water pump is needed to pump water to the tanks on the roof, since the public supply's pressure is not enough to get it up 3 stories. Now, I heard the water pump going and immediately was suspicious. Sure, coincidences exist, but it wouldn't hurt to check it out. I waited till his pump turned off and then turned on different taps in the house. Sure enough, the pressure was back to normal. This made me even more suspicious, but if he was stealing water, it also made sense. The water bills had been going up over the years. This house wasn't lived in, but the house also had some water leaks. So it was chalked up to that, even if the bills were too high to be caused just by leaks. Now it's starting to make sense. At some point in the last 3 years, this old miser thought he'd save the cost of paying for water and waltzed into the property and is siphoning water from my lines. I couldn't find where exactly he was siphoning water from, but after checking my pressure multiple times, I was pretty sure. So I sat on it for a few days, thinking if I should confront him, go the legal path, or just let it be. Now, water in my country is very cheap. My total bill, even with washing 3 animals, a car every week, and watering my garden, only costs like $5 per month, even when the neighbor is also stealing some of it. But it wasn't about how much I was paying or who was paying for it. It's about entitled old people who think that they're deserving of using other people's resources without paying for it, and then getting away with it. It didn't sit right with me, and I really wanted to teach him a lesson. What I did was really simple. I just turned off my water from the mains. I wouldn't have to break into his property, nor would I be breaking any laws. It was the best way of getting back at him without needing to even lift a muscle. So on Monday, just 4 days ago, I waited till the pump clicked on and turned off the supply. Now, the way household tanks work in my country is that there's a ball valve in the tank which detects the level of water and turns on the pump. If the level doesn't increase, the valve stays open, which electronically sends a signal to the pump to stay on until the level gets to a point at which the valve closes and also shuts off the pump. However, the level wasn't increasing, and anyone knows that starving a pump of water isn't a good idea. This way, my expectation was that I'd burn out his pump and cause issues with his tenants. What I didn't account for is that his pump running constantly would mess up the fuses by constantly drawing power overnight and absolutely destroy his wiring. If he decided to upgrade his household wiring to a more modern standard, this would have been prevented. This house clearly still had 90s era wiring. At around 3 a.m., I heard all residents in the house waking up and talking in hushed voices about why just their house in the neighborhood doesn't have power or water. I found out about the power part because the tenants devolved into shouting at their landlord. Our tenant protection laws are very important, and power and water are classed as essential even on a state level. Cutting those services are grounds for lawsuits, unless due to weather or some other unavoidable reason. In this case, the landlord is responsible for keeping the house wiring up to date and in good condition, alongside the supply of water. So the tenants were not happy, and one of them immediately moved out 2 days later when it was informed that water and power will not be returning the very same day this happened. Both tenants in the 2 floors lodged a complaint with the police. And if a person is in clear breach of laws, the police have the authority to fine or penalize the person without a court judgment. It can be challenged in court if the person thinks that they were unfairly penalized, but they still have to pay the fines, and will only be refunded if and when the court finds the fines unlawful. Now, the landlord lost both tenants and has to pay a fine of $500, which is a lot of money in our country. He also has to refund the security deposits of both tenants and cannot rent out until both issues are fixed, which will cost him more money. As of right now, he's moving out on Sunday to his daughter's place since he cannot afford to live alone. The tenants were his only source of income, and he's a retired mechanic, so he has no other income. He did find out why the motor kept drawing power, overloaded the wiring, and burnt out. He came by to my gate and asked me if I turned off my water, and I said, "Oh yeah, my tank had a new leak on a pipe and I turned it off till the next day until the plumber came by to fix the issue." Y'all, the look on his face. He kept a straight one, but I just knew he was holding back. He just said, "Oh, okay," and went back inside. Not sure if he knows I know, but I don't care because he can't do anything. I'm getting a plumber down next week to correct my plumbing and remove any pipes that leave my property. So I got rid of my water issue and a neighbor who could potentially be a pain in the ass by simply flicking off a tap. 2 birds, 1 stone, I'd say. That was good. That was so good. And honestly, I don't think it was petty. I think it was completely fair. Like, he was literally stealing a resource from you, and you just cut off his access to that resource. The fact that it worked out that it proved the issues with his wiring, and then all the tenants were like, nope, not dealing with this, and checked out. That was just the icing on the cake. Karma was on your side, my friend. I love that one. Let's see if we can do one more. Okay, we're going to read one more story for today. Story number 5 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. I'll do what I want in my own yard. Okay, I'll make it impossible to enjoy your air. Last spring, my old neighbor, who was a saint, sold her house and moved away. The people that moved in were awful. The guy, who we'll call Pete, owns some sort of a new black Mustang that sounds like it has no muffler, and he revs it up and down the subdivision streets in the evenings, literally 5 days a week, when a lot of people, myself included, sit on the back porch and watch TV during the summer. It is relentless. This guy also drives up and down the state highway that is on the other side of my house, doing the same thing but louder, because it's a 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. You can hear it for miles, and he has friends over regularly in the backyard, and they sit there on the weekends and some weeknights, revving up the car. It truly is so loud that you cannot do anything but wait for him to be done. There was a big Facebook conversation in the HOA group, and a bunch of neighbors politely asked him to not do this. Pete's exact response: I pay a lot of money for this house. I'll do what I want in my own yard. And the streets are public. Well, I didn't like that. So here's what I did next, with a little context. Our subdivision has about 150 houses on about 300 acres. It's big. Most of the properties in the subdivision are between 1 to 4 acres in size. I have a 3-acre corner. Due to an agreed-upon land split/sale 10 years ago between the HOA, all neighbors within the vicinity, and the former owners, my next-door neighbor's house is on the smallest piece of property in the subdivision at 0.45 acres, so just under half. I've attached a stunning artistic representation here. Note the green borders, those are all 10-foot privacy fences that are white vinyl. And note the little pentagon shape that comes in handy later. The only side of Pete's house not bordered by somebody else's privacy fence is the side that my house is on. Well, I know from 15 years of living here that anytime I have a fire on the side of the yard next to Pete's, the smoke is guaranteed to travel in the direction of Pete's house. I know this because I couldn't ever have a fire when my old neighbor was outside, as it would literally fill her backyard with smoke if ever the wood had even a hint of moisture in it. So I moved my fire pit about a dozen years ago to the other side of my house and towards the road so that I could be a good neighbor. And you know, Pete letting me know that he wouldn't quit making noise reminds me that I just loved having my fire pit right in the middle of my backyard. That's where the little pentagon is in the diagram above. It took me a single weekend to dig up the pavers and blocks, move them back to my preferred spot, and get myself a fire going in my new fire pit. I just need to wait until Pete had people over. I made sure the inaugural fire was a good one. Pete had friends over, it was a nice day, and so I started the fire. It got just about started. And then I added all the wettest, grossest wood I could. And about 10 minutes later, Pete and all of his friends were visibly upset by the stench, so they all went in. They came back out a little later. I added more wet, nasty wood. They went in again. I kept that up the entire day, and then I added a bunch of grass clipping to keep it going overnight. The next day, still smoldering, still smelling awful. I put out a Facebook post on the HOA website that let people know I'd be continuing to utilize my fire pit as often as possible, so they could bring me their lawn scraps. I had about 20 people respond in a few hours saying their clippings were all mine. I kept that fire going. My dogs are good alarms, and they rush outside anytime anybody is in Pete's backyard. So I would hear the dogs scramble, go out, and add more clippings. After about 3 weeks, Pete and his wife came out and very kindly asked me what was going on with the fire pit. She very politely informed me that her hair would smell like a campfire if she went into their backyard for any amount of time, and they could smell it coming into their house through their ductwork. He said I was making it hard for him to enjoy his backyard with his friends. They asked me if I could ease back with the fire because I probably didn't know that it was impacting so much of their home life. I looked at him and his wife, and I said that it was clear that sometimes we didn't recognize how big of an effect something could have on our neighbors until they told us about it. But then I said, as objectively as possible, that I normally live by the same I'll do what I want in my yard thought process as Pete does. I have a right to enjoy my own yard. I looked at Pete dead in the eyes and said, and I know you support that because of how the conversation concluded about your car, right, Pete? He looked at me like I scratched his favorite CD. He knew what I was doing, and his wife looked at him and it just dawned on her. She said, she gets it, and we won't hear the Mustang anymore. I said, thanks. I took a gamble and put the fire out right after that. It was the right call. I haven't talked to them much since. I'm not too concerned about that because I haven't heard the Mustang since either. All in all, a good little case of petty revenge. I love this one because truly you didn't do anything wrong. You utilized your yard. Like, you can have your fire pit wherever you want. And I love the way it dawned on the wife because you know he probably got in trouble as soon as they went back inside that house because he caused you to start that fire that was making her hair smell bad. And I love it. Like, you did what you did and it was all good and fine. Like, nobody got hurt. And then you reminded him of what he said. And you basically told him without telling him that I'm just doing what you did, so it should be fine. I love it. I love the way that turned out. Nicely done. All right, that is us done for this episode of Petty Please. If you are listening on podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review and share the episode if you liked it. It helps the channel grow. If you are watching on YouTube, leave a comment with your thoughts down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more, share it with your friends if you liked it. I will see you next time for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Until then, bye.